You can give a man a fish or give a man a Bitcoin, but if you can teach him how to fish or teach him the understanding of economics behind money, then you have just done him a lifetime of service. From Satoshi's first Genesis block, inscribed in that Genesis block, and I'll paraphrase, but it's Chancellor on the brink of bailout for banks. And essentially, right there, you get the purpose of Bitcoin. Hello guys, my name is Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. I just wanted to talk a bit about money today. The entire economy that we have been raised to believe is a scam. The entire debt-based, fiat-based, inflationary model of all governments on Earth today is a scam designed to siphon wealth from the poor and the middle class and push it on up to the elite. And this system is very hidden in its nature. It steals from us in a secretive manner in the form of inflation. You know, if you have $10,000 or $100,000 and you save that money for 10 years, its purchasing power, as we all know, goes down. And it's hard to see that because you still see the same number in your bank account. In fact, you might even see it go up slightly with a little bit of interest, right? Oh, they're so kind to give us a little bit of interest. Instead of $10,000, now I have $10,100. And maybe in a year later, I have $10,200. You know, the interest rates these days are very, very poor. But did you really make $200? You know, while the number itself got larger, the purchasing power got more than $200 weaker. The inflation could have been, the real inflation could have been 10%, while the interest you got was a pittance sum in comparison to that. And it's a very, very, very cleverly designed system. I recommend watching Mike Maloney's Secrets of Money, Hidden Secrets of Money for gaining an understanding and education on the subject. So the way that the current fiat-based inflationary money system works is it incentivizes debt. It encourages debt because if you want to make some money, buy an asset, buy a $100,000 home or a $500,000 home, and you'll get a mortgage, and which is a loan, and you have to pay interest on that. Now, first of all, the bank that loaned you that didn't have the money in the first place. They gave it to you via fractional reserve banking. So they had to have the tiniest fraction of that amount of money in the bank to claim that you owe them $500,000. So they didn't have it in the first place, right? But not only that, then if you go down the years, let's say you have a 30-year mortgage and you pay off your minimum every year, at the end of that 30 years, you will have paid the bank an enormous sum of money and an enormous sum of interest on top of it. And keep in mind, they didn't have that money in the first place. It's not like you were paying them back. You're just giving them money that you earned with your own hard work. And the crazy thing about it is that that same $500,000 loan in 30 years, due to inflation, is worth much less. It's actually much easier to pay off that loan later in time when the dollar inflates in value. It loses its value. So the purchasing power goes down in the same manner that a loaf of bread that today costs $5 in 30 years will probably cost $30. Well, that same loan that you had for $500,000 stays at $500,000, right? You still owe the bank $500,000, but it's a lot easier to pay that loan off in 30 years. So this debt-based inflationary monetary system actually encourages people to take loans. It encourages people to operate in a debt-based manner. And that entire model flips utterly on its head when it comes to a deflationary currency, such as cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. When you have a deflationary asset, the reverse happens. And there are many use cases for cryptocurrency. Of course, you can buy certain things with it, and we all hope for more shops and stores to purchase things with cryptocurrency at. And that will happen as the years and decades continue forward. It will become more and more ubiquitous throughout society. But I would argue that the single and foremost purpose for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is simply a hedge against the inflation of fiat. Period. Its entire purpose from the ground level, from Satoshi's first Genesis block, inscribed in that Genesis block, and I'll paraphrase, but it's chancellor on the brink of bailout for banks. And essentially, right there, you get the purpose of Bitcoin. Bitcoin and all subsequent cryptocurrencies were created in response to an out of control money printing leading to financial collapse and disaster for people around the world. And Satoshi was like, okay, I've had enough of this. And not only have I had enough of this, but now we have the technology to do something about it. And he combined various cryptographies and math problems to solve the double spending problem in Bitcoin, to make it possible to have a unique piece of data on a computer that can represent value, which could never be done before. And that was the innovation of Bitcoin. And not only that, but of course, as you know, you can transmit it over any border. You need no third party. It can be nearly free or free, depending on the currency you use, and nearly instantaneous. And those are just features that make it even better. But really, its prime and sole purpose is a hedge against the inflation and devaluation of the dollar. And it's really interesting as a thought experiment because we haven't really had a society running on a deflationary currency. We're just at the very forefront of this, but I think we have, 99.9% of the population to go. But it's really interesting as a thought experiment, what will a deflationary currency do and change for the lifestyles of people around the world? How will this change things? Well, I would say that it would stop people from taking large loans because that money that they're going to have to pay back is going to become worth more and more over time. So rather than taking a $500,000 loan on a house, people are going to be encouraged to save money and to purchase outright something because they don't want to incur the interest on something, because the interest due on that loan actually becomes more and more over time, instead of as in our current monetary system where we have inflation making the interest payments actually worth less and less over time. So the current system we have encourages loans and borrowing, and a deflationary monetary system such as Bitcoin encourages saving money. And not just in regard to loans, but it encourages saving in general. Right now, if I have $10,000 in my bank account, I don't really want to keep it in my bank account because I know that it's just slowly losing value. But in a Bitcoin world, let's call it a Bitcoin or crypto world, where I know that the value is gaining over time because it's a deflationary currency, and I have $10,000 in my savings account, my Bitcoin or crypto savings account, well, then I'm encouraged to keep it there and to not spend too much. And that's because it's going to gain in value. So that $10,000 in my bank account will have a greater and greater and greater purchasing power. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. This is the big picture. We're getting into a lot of new people entering the space as the Bitcoin bull run begins. And there are those of us who are more seasoned. There are those of us who just got in the last bull run. And there are those who haven't even joined yet. And we all are on different points of this path, of this journey to economic and financial freedom. And I just want to encourage you to educate yourself. It's fine to speculate. It's fine to make big money, buying low and selling high, as we all want to do. But keep in mind the big picture. The big picture is economic freedom for the entire world and stopping this ludicrous cycle of the elite stealing from the poor and the middle class on the backs of hardworking lower class and middle class people around the world and enriching the already uber rich. Another topic I want to cover is the topic of risk. Sometimes on a person's journey, learning and understanding about cryptocurrency, it can seem like a very risky proposition. And I get it because it's complicated, it's technical, and not everyone has that technical understanding to really grasp it at its most basic level. And I think that that's truly the best way to get this movement, is to understand the technology at its core. I learned about the basics of Bitcoin back in 2013 from the likes of Charles Hoskinson with his Udemy podcasts, educating about Bitcoin. I learned it from Andreas Antonopoulos back in the same time frame. I learned it from many of these guys who are old school Bitcoin OGs. But it can seem like a fearful proposition. It can seem risky. And, I see there's people on all ends of the spectrum here. There are those who just dive right in, and there are those who don't, and they're completely averse to it and think it's the stupidest scam in the world. and there are those in the middle. There are those that have no money, but they see the potential and they put what they can into it. And at least they get the system and they're trying to climb their way out. And conversely, there are those who have enormous amounts of money and they don't quite get it and they don't take advantage of the opportunity. And it's really sad for me to see that. And I want to just point out the subject of fear here. You know, if you ask a person who's uneducated about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to invest money, they might say that they feel it's risky and they feel safer in the dollar. And that's all they've been raised to know. You can't really blame them because the dollar is all they've ever known and it's comfortable to them and it's safe to them. But I would argue that it's actually more risky to not own any Bitcoin at all. And again, that requires education into what is really happening with the dollars that you and I hold in our bank accounts and in our wallets. When you come to understand with a certainty that the value of those dollars, whether they're in your wallet or in your bank account, are worth less and less day after day, week after week, year after year, you become motivated to consider the option of perhaps something like Bitcoin and perhaps putting a little bit into it because you get that there's something wrong with this other system. And when you really get how wrong this other system is, you realize that the loss of value in the dollar is not just possible, but it's a certainty. People basically cannot be trusted with the control of money. And that is what Satoshi Nakamoto recognized. No matter what nation or government you give the control of money to, it will be abused, always. And that is historically fact. And so Satoshi recognized that and thought, you know, we can't give the control of money to people. What can we do? Let's give it to an algorithm. Let's make the supply and issuance of money mathematically precise and mathematically controlled by computer, not by people. Ironically, you can trust a computer with the control of money more than you can with human greed and other abuses of money. And that's how that we fund war, is through inflation and money printing. And so if you really want to step back, the harming of people on planet Earth is because of greed and those who control the money supply on the backs of and the theft of regular citizens, such as yourself and myself. By being involved, even though it's against our will, in a system that is an inflationary and theft-based to citizens, we are contributing and participating in funding of wars through forcibly being taxed and the deaths of others around the world. I know it's kind of like painful to look at that, but if you really want to open your eyes, that is what's happening. And a person could take a number of defenses and say, well, I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't choose what country I was in. I didn't choose to use this money. I didn't choose to be taxed. And now that you have an option, you have cryptocurrency, we have Bitcoin, we have an alternative. Now you do have a choice. And that is why I feel it's so important to get on the bandwagon and to understand what's happening here. So back to my point of risk. Yes, you could say it's risky to get into Bitcoin and to hold cryptocurrencies, but I would argue that it's more risky to not. It's more risky to stay in something that's going to guaranteedly lose value. It's more risky and harmful to stay in something that is the fuel. We are the sheep, in a way, for a corrupt system that siphons value out of our work and funnels it into war and killing of others. I am pro-choice. I am for having a choice with what my money does for the world. And right now in this current system, when we are being taxed and money is being spent against our will, we have nothing to do about it. So that's how I look at everything. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just telling you how I look at everything. And I look at it as if I didn't own any Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, then that would be extremely risky. That would be more risky than not owning it. So if you have the opportunity, please share this knowledge with those you care about, because you can give a man a fish or give a man a Bitcoin. But if you can teach him how to fish or teach him the understanding of economics behind money, then you have just done him a lifetime of service. I like that analogy. So instead of giving a man a fish, teach him how to fish. Instead of giving a man a Bitcoin, teach him about true economics and the scam that is present with the inflationary theft-based model that we all live in and that we all were not taught in school and that we all have been ignorant to until we woke up. Maybe it was Ron Paul who woke you up to this. That was the start of the journey for me. Maybe it was this video if you're a newcomer, or maybe it was someone else. But it's not enough to make sure that you understand the scam that is happening with money. It's imperative that we share it with our friends, our family, our brothers, and everyone around us, because if you don't know that there's something wrong, then you won't do anything about it. So let's all raise each other up. Let's all come up together and witness the true reverse wealth transfer. We've been having a wealth transfer from the lower class and the middle class to the elite for the past 100+ years. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies reverses that. And I'm going to call this a reverse wealth transfer, where the money from the inflation hoarders comes back and we siphon this back into crypto, where we have a deflationary system. Because I'm all about a more free and a more fair world for all of us. And I know you guys are too. Thank you very much, and keep up the good fight. Keep spreading the word, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and why we're doing what we're doing.